I love how YouTube says you're live when you go live, and it's just really exciting. It's like, you're live! Yay! Look, I brought my little friend because it's the day before Halloween. It's Halloween Eve. Is that what we call it? Welcome everybody. Hello. I'm so happy that you're here. Good evening. It is October 30th and we have a lot to discuss. Welcome. Good evening. If you are willing and able, say hello in the chat and let's have a conversation. Moon Magic and Mindfulness with Grace was previously hosted on a different app, right? And in that app, I had a live audience, and that was so much fun. And I love everybody that has joined me here from there. I appreciate that so much, but it's always meant to be a conversation. If you are new here, allow me to introduce myself really quick. My name is Graciela Moore, and I am an ICF certified coach. ICF stands for International Coaching Federation. And because I am a life coach, I like to ask questions and have a conversation, right? I feel like effective communication and powerful questioning is the way to get to the bottom of things, right? Dialogue. And think about the last few weeks and everything that we have witnessed, right? Because we haven't experienced it. We're witnessing it through the media, right? What's happening. And so, dialogue, right? It's nothing is as simple as just saying we want peace or we want love, or right. It takes a lot of conversations to get to any which point, right? And so all of that to say, welcome, and I'm so grateful for you watching, tuning in on the replay squad, or the besties that join live. I am very, very grateful for you. Last year, the Halloween episode was kind of iconic. Halloween fell on a moon day. Today is Moon Day, but tomorrow is Halloween, right? So last year, Halloween was on a moon day, and we had the episode, and I had a fire literally happen on this shelf. Something caught on fire because I wanted to make, the stage of our show come to life with candles, because the meditation was going to be about candles and whatnot. And it caught on fire like 3 minutes before the show started. And I will never forget, number one, the panic, obviously. And number two, how quickly I kind of put that all together and literally looked at the burned spot on the wall and said, you know what? If that's not spooky, I don't know what is. So I'm just going to go live anyway, right? Because I pondered like whether do I cancel it or not. And I went live anyway. And I was thinking about that today. I was reminiscing about it because it's been a year. And two, because it was so hilarious. And I'm very grateful for that. That episode is here on YouTube. You can go back to it 1 year. Wow. What a journey, right? What a journey. I shared a previous video this week explaining here what eclipse season is. And I've done this many times on these episodes, but I wanted to express gratitude to the people that asked me what eclipse season was and kind of encouraged me to post that. Thank you for that. And last Thursday, I saw my coach, Sally. I see her every Thursday. And it was a wonderful year in review that we did. And specifically in this season, because last year, Scorpio season was quite interesting, right? It was pretty dark. And I feel like this year, the darkness that we are witnessing is definitely on par with the season. And I'm grateful that I can witness it and hold space for it and do what I can about it and be okay with like my own stuff. That feels so huge. That feels like such an improvement, right? So this week, doesn't sound as scary astrologically as the previous week, except the moon moves from Gemini into Cancer, and Cancer is always in our feelings. But here's the thing. Here's what I love about this week. We're going to get into it, right? On this podcast, on this show, we like to talk about where the moon is every day and how that may affect you emotionally, because that's what the moon does. Also intellectually, right? Because everything is connected. Hopefully, right? If you're in tune, then everything will be connected. If you're aligned, then everything will be connected, right? And we touch on the astrology very briefly, just because I like to focus on the moon. And, Venus is still in Virgo. So what does that look like? I loved how Chani in the Chani Nicholas, I love how Chani Nicholas in her Astrology of the Week podcast brings up the thread in the clothing, because Virgo is very detail oriented. Virgo is also the perfectionist, right? And so Venus in Virgo implies that anything that has to be with aesthetics, and then you add the context of perfectionism to it, then you might notice little details like a thread that's out of place, right? And that can be very favorable, especially if you crochet or if you do stuff like that. But how do you transform that example into what's happening? And the only way that I can connect things and make sense of them is to ask questions. And so this came up earlier, where I was having a coaching conversation, and this is going to be very surface level to protect anonymity and confidentiality per ICF standards. But we were talking about a very difficult situation. And my question is, what is it that's keeping you in this situation, right? Or some other way of asking is, what is it that's preventing you from walking away, right? And the answer was a bit hesitant, which to me, asking the questions and low-key trying to get to the bottom of it and making the connections, to me, a hesitant answer means that there's another connection to be made before we can find a definitive answer. And so this whole eclipse season just closed a big 2-year chapter. So if you haven't pondered what's gone on in your life in the last 2 years, the themes that came up, and when I say themes, I mean things that keep on coming constantly, like some of the things that usually come constantly that affect us deeply is failed relationships, multiple friendships broken, just multiple failures in general, right? These are things that happen on a pattern or more than once, and then it affects us emotionally, right? So the last 2 years, those things that are happening repetitive, that's what I'm calling a theme, right? So what were the themes in your life in the last 2 years? Those are some of the great questions to ask yourself if you're going to review the 2 years, the last whole eclipse season. And we call it the whole eclipse season that lasts 2 years because it's the year and half-ish of the north node of the moon being in Taurus and the south node of the moon being in Scorpio. Now they've moved, right? We talked about this shows ago. Now they're in Aries and Scorpio, Aries and Libra. So anyway, everything that's gone on, all of the questions that you've been asking yourself, my hope is that this week, a lot of it makes sense. Now, there's a lot happening in the astrology that may get in the way of that. And that is the Venus in Virgo. There are two V's, and I'm like, Venus in Venus? No. Virgo in Virgo? No. That's literally what just went on in my head. Venus in Virgo, and whatever details that brings up in a negative way, because if you're not used to perfectionism, then that will feel uncomfortable. And if you have trauma around perfectionism, then that might feel uncomfortable too. But also Mercury is still in Mars, right? So there's a lot happening here that kind of translates into anger, frustration, because that's Mars, right? However, the moon kind of not supplements that, but supports it in a way, and kind of, in my opinion, and in my astrological mindset and how I am making sense of what is happening, right? Which is what I am sharing, my opinion, my practice, right? And if you have a different view, I would love to hear from you so that we can have a conversation, right? The waning moon, which is what's happening after a full moon, right? That's the process that starts. It's the waning moon. The waning moon is the week to realize and then let go and release and be done with it. And there's a lot of things that we do that with. And there's a lot of times that we do that, because I believe that letting go of something once may not be done. We may falter, we may fall again. It may be a theme, right? A recurrent theme in our lives, which means it's going to come up again. And that's another conversation of why things keep coming up if you're aware of them. It's been my experience that once I become aware of something, it never comes up again. So ponder that as well. But along with the waning moon that already kind of supports the context of letting go, releasing, erasing, deleting, blocking, disconnecting, discontinuing, cutting, burying, burning, right? Whatever action means that you are through. Not only is this whole week a waning moon, but we're starting the week with the moon in Gemini, which is an air sign. So it's complementing this whole Mercury and Mars, because air, right? Words and thoughts and just laughter, right? Gemini is extremely friendly. Think about those two twins at the same time. It brings up a lot of duality. And so how is all of that fitting in, right? And then hopefully, once we make sense of everything between Monday and Tuesday with the moon in Gemini, then Wednesday and Friday, because Gemini is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, right? The moon in Gemini. And then Thursday and Friday, the moon is in Cancer. We might be in all our feelings. And with that, I feel like sometimes when I say that, the response tends to be apprehensive, because being in your feelings kind of denotes or makes it seem like you're crying. But if you think about it, if you're experiencing feelings of frustration, or if you've been festering in resentment, or if you have been bottling up your anger, then in your feelings means in your feelings. What are your feelings? It's not like the phrase in your feelings doesn't mean like you're just going to cry and, throw a fit. It means, what are your feelings and what does it mean for you to be in your feelings? And that's what the moon in Cancer kind of brings up, because Cancer is that touchy-feely, right? Sign. But see, here's the thing. And this is what I love about coaching as well, which is the ability to take off the camera lens and put it somewhere else. And now you have a different perspective, right? Or if you take the camera and you point it to the floor, now you have a different perspective, right? And the other perspective about the moon in Cancer, which honestly, I never kind of had a lot of control about, for my feelings when the moon was in Cancer, until I really committed to figuring out what this whole moon emotional astrology is all about, right? And I started this practice just focusing on new moon and full moons manifesting when I was like 21, right? And now, 17 years later, or whatever, however long it's been, it's deeper than that. And the whole thing about the perspective is the moon in Cancer puts you in your feelings, and that's one perspective. But what about the perspective of the moon in Cancer being the most comfortable because the moon is at home in Cancer, and Cancer is not necessarily taking a dig at your feelings. Cancer is more of a nurturer. So now you have the bigger element, not necessarily mother, but you know what I mean, the moon and Cancer, both of them there to aid you while you are in your feelings, right? And that's a different perspective. And when I think about it like that, I'm no longer so angry or sad. And it's very interesting. So I would love to see if any of you feel like that later on this week, Thursday and Friday, or if you really just, it's so important if you feel it to express it, or it's really going to affect. A lot of people believe that illness is repressed emotion in the body. And I say a lot of people because I don't believe that, but maybe you do. And even if you don't, that doesn't make it a lie, right? Because two things can be true. We're not even talking about two things, but just because it's not true for you doesn't mean it's not true for someone else. I've said this before. Anyway, after Cancer, the moon is going to move into Leo. So next weekend, Leo, how interesting, right? Leo likes to be the center of attention. And Leo likes to, not just the center of attention, but the thing about Leo is that it wants to lead, and it wants to be important and be seen, but it's not necessarily for no reason. Leo, in a lot of ways, represents that kind of royal air, that kind of level up. There you go. Forget I said royal air. Leveling up, right? The energy of leveling up, the energy of being crowned, right? That's the lion, right? The lion has a crown on his head, doesn't he? And so, not the animal, obviously. I mean the symbol. And it's because the hard work has been done and the feelings have been dealt with and the knowledge has been acquired. And then it's, right, Leo season, the highlight of the year, right? Summer and the sun, and life is beautiful, and we're all out there. And we're not necessarily out there just because the weather is hot. It's very interesting how during the summer we put ourselves out there in lots of ways. We do things normally that we might feel uncomfortable with. We might join people at a party. You might join people at the beach, but you would never go to the beach on your own. But because it's a party, and maybe because it's Leo season, you want to be included and you want to be seen. So maybe you do go to the party. Oh, those are the things I like to think about when I observe the world around me, right? I like to tie all of those invisible strings. This is my life, right? And so we finish the week with the last quarter on November 5th. And Saturn has a lot of influence today. If you're wondering what I'm looking at, it is astroseek.com. Saturn has a lot to do with this week, but I'm not going to get into it because I feel like at the end of the day, Saturn will ask for things that we all find useful, beneficial, and helpful. And that is things like discipline, things like dedication, right? If you want to get anything done, you have to dedicate some time to it. And maybe before you dedicate some time to it, you have to think about it for a little bit, right? I personally like to imagine a project all in my head before I bring it to life, before I start physically clicking on my mouse and writing my words. So that's interesting, right? How that happens up here and then it comes down. It's almost like a reversal chakra thing because it starts in the third eye or crown chakra and then it ends up in the root chakra where it is rooted on the earth in physical form, right? That's very interesting, isn't it? And that also reminds me, but I'll do this reminder later. So if you're wondering what that was, Moon Magic and Mindfulness with Grace 2023 Manifestation Agenda / Journal, the only journal you need to make and nurture plans, avoid burnout, and create fearlessly is the book I created last year for this year. This is the first edition, and next year's book is going to be available soon. I was so tempted to release it today, but I'm having second thoughts about the front page, and if the front page is not done, like if I'm having second doubts about it, then that's just a sign that I should just not release it and not just wait. And the deadline or the day that it goes live is set to be Black Friday, at the latest Cyber Monday, because I remember last year when I submitted all of it in time for Black Friday, it was not available then. And so by Cyber Monday it was, and I felt so grateful. So we'll see what happens this year, but I'm so excited. Next year's book is going to be more magical. It's going to have more astrology and more of the little details, like, the moon being void of course. It was void of course this morning for about, 3 hours. And a lot can happen in 3 hours, which means a lot can be avoided in 3 hours if you want to attune to the moon even deeper. So next year's agenda is going to have all of that already in it so that you don't have to do any thinking. You can just live your life. So we start the week with a waning gibbous, which means it's still pretty big, but it's already waning, and it wants to really ground yourself in your efforts. What does that mean? It means, how are your efforts reflecting what you want to create? How are your physical steps, the things that you are doing, right? And to me, I always speak for myself. Mostly the efforts tend to be about physical messes because the 4-year-old runs all over the place all day and I follow. And so things get started in a corner but not finished, right? Because I'll go follow, right? And so it ends up being something here, something here, something here. Some days it takes me hours to finish a load of dishes because I follow and I get interrupted so much, right? Which is okay. But all of that to say, if I am actively frustrated with the mess, then how am I grounding my efforts about it? How am I actively grounding that? How am I making it happen? Because if you're not going to make it happen, then please stop complaining, right? Or is it just me? I don't know. Okay, you let me know. And in this book, we have affirmations every week, and we also have affirmations for new moon and full moon. We're going to go back to review the full moon that just happened, and we're going to talk a little bit more about eclipses, and then we're going to be done early because normally every other episode that is not a new moon or full moon episode tends to be shorter because we don't talk about all the new moon and full moon stuff. So the affirmations: I value optimism and independence. What do you value? I value optimism and independence. Honestly, I'm very curious as to why I put those two things in a single sentence, but I did. It's written right there. So, what do you value? I center my mind and spirit with nature and moments of calm. Yay. I center my mind and body with nature in moments of calm. I feel like that affirmation sounds a lot like my friend from TikTok, Unmasking Mom, I think it is. My friend Annalise, she loves the crunchy leaves of fall. Okay, so let's talk about the full moon, shall we? Before that, of course, ponder what is it that you're going to create this week and what are you grateful for? I've expressed so much gratitude tonight, and I'm so grateful for all of you. Wait, do I have a... Oh, there you go. Oh, thank you. All right. So the full moon last Saturday may have felt extremely uncomfortable. In fact, today you may still have been moody, tired, drained. On Saturday, I panicked thinking it was Sunday and thinking the next day was Monday. And then on Sunday, I just didn't want it to end because I was exhausted. And then here we are today. But here's the thing about the moon and changing and how all of these other astrological changes are taking longer because they're further away. But the moon is so close that it just shifts its energy so quick. And that's also another great observation that I have documented over the years, which is how I'll be all up in my feelings when the moon is in Cancer. And then the next day, the moon is in Leo. And it's like dry eyes, lipstick on, let's have the best life. And that's like, for real. It's not that we're delusional, it's that the energy shifts and we flow with it. So I find that so curious and so awesome about paying attention to all of these things. But anyway, this full moon hopefully illuminated a lot and clarified some things. And the things that this full moon hopefully clarified could date back to November of 2021. That's for you to ponder. This is what I love about journaling, is that you can go back on a date and check, right? What was your mindset and what was happening then? So I encourage you to look back on your journals if you have them, or even your social media. If you don't keep a journal, you can go back on your social media and find out what was happening during that time, right? So there's a lot of ways that we can look back on right now. But this full moon questions were, how am I preparing for the season ahead? Physically preparing, right? Mentally, physically, and spiritually. And what is a habit that's proven pointless that I could let go of today in order to progress? And let's talk about that. So last week, I went into detail about the question, how am I preparing for the season ahead? And I specified that when I say the word physically, I don't mean your physical body. I mean physically, like, preparing for the season ahead could be as simple as putting your Halloween decorations away and decorating for Christmas, if that's what you do. That's you physically preparing. So let's not, be kind of definitive about giving a word just one definition, right? Physical doesn't mean just your body. It means everything on the land, everything that you can see in 3D form and touch and feel, right? And a habit that's proven pointless does not just mean something that you do every day, like for yourself. A habit could be listening to someone that you shouldn't be listening to and talking to someone that you shouldn't be talking to. A habit could be constantly second guessing yourself. Anything that you do over and over and over again. More specifically, when it comes to self-development and positive psychology and shifting from a negative to positive, we would look at a question like this and ponder bringing your awareness to something that you do repetitively that makes you uncomfortable, right? Anything that has a negative connotation in your life that you do over and over again. Whatever it is that you're constantly asking yourself, why do I keep doing this? That's a habit, right? So don't get in the habit of asking yourself why you have the habits that you have, and just look at your habits and think about how you can change them. How am I flowing with the changing season as opposed to against it, right? Surrender, flow with. That has to do a lot with taking what the moon illuminated and waning off of it, releasing and letting go. That's what the waning phase is all about. And so those are the questions for the full moon. The affirmation for the full moon was, I welcome the changing season and the nurturing energy of preparation. So those were some great affirmations and just questions overall. If you are wondering what we do in this book, we like to journal and paint over it. So this is it. This is the book, and I'm so excited for next year. So next week we have a new moon happening already, but eclipse season is already done. So any new moon that comes up and any full moon that comes up from now on should be just normal, right? And this new moon is happening on Monday. So I might just wait, it's not next week, it's the following week. Is it? 6th, the week of the 6th. Nope, it is the week of the 13th, and that's the moon day. So I might just journal and paint live with you all because the full moon, or the new moon this time, is falling on a moon day. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. And welcome and thank you to new subscribers. I'm so grateful that you're here. Please comment your impressions or any questions or anything I say that you're like, wait, what does that even mean? Feel free to ask, for real. I love the questions. And if I don't know the answer, we will figure it out. We will narrow it down. It is all out there available. If we don't know it, then that's just one more thing to learn. So there you go. Let's get into the meditation. In this program, I don't know what to call it. It's so sad that I have an identity crisis about this show because of what happened with that previous app. But let me just give you the 411 really quick. This show was hosted on a different hosting platform, and through that platform, this program was broadcasted through YouTube and Spotify. And so I would address the audience as being on a live podcast. But now it's like, is this a YouTube show? Is this like, maybe you can help me. Tell me what this is, right? Do we call it a podcast? Do we call it a live? Do we call it a show? I don't even know. But in this show, we close it with a little meditation. So if you are safe, then close your eyes. Give me your hand, darling. Because it's time to breathe and relax. Thank you for the hearts. If you are driving or just not in a safe environment, then don't close your eyes and just listen. Save it for next time. But we're going to do deep breathing, and let's review some of these affirmations. We're going to go to Brain FM. Let's meditate unguided, and it's already set up. We got the chimes on the bowls, and you can find a free trial of Brain FM in the bio. Settle into your space. Relax your body. Settle into your breathing, nice and slow. With me, take a deep breath in through your nose. All the way, fill your lungs all the way. Hold it at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out through your mouth. Long breath out all the way. Hold it at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe in again. All the way. Hold it at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale through your mouth. Long, nice and slow exhale all the way. Hold it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and relax. And as you relax and settle into your breath. I want you to picture yourself in the most comfortable, inviting, cozy place that you can feel in. I am at the beach because I love the texture of the sand and my toes digging in it. And there is a big red moon up in the sky. And with the light of this moon shedding light over everything around you, slowly breathing and gently witnessing, I want you to remember that I am flowing with every experience, gaining insight, making connections, and figuring out what is truly best for me. In this space of comfort and bliss, along with that big full moon, slightly waning, you take a deep breath in through your nose, all the way up, all the way, fill your lungs till you have no room. Hold it at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale through your mouth. Long breath out all the way. Hold it again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and relax. And as you relax, think about these affirmations or repeat them. I value optimism and independence. I center my mind and spirit with nature and moments of calm like this one. I am loved. I create fearlessly. I value authentic friendships and empowering connections. I am so grateful. With me, take one last breath in, one last rep through your nose all the way. Fill your lungs all the way. Hold it at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale through your mouth. Nice and slow, long breath out. Hold it again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe in through your nose one last time, very last time. Just breathe in all the way. Hold it at the top. And exhale nice and slow through your mouth, all the way to the end. And as you settle into this exhale, bring your awareness back to your body. Wiggle your toes and come back to me. And that completes this beautiful account of what this week might look like, or what I hope it will be. At the end of the day, I want you all to be safe and loved and happy and healthy and creating what you want to create, doing what you want to do. And if not, then what are we going to do about it, right? I love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on our morning call tomorrow. If you would like to know what that is, hang on, let me just tell you real quick. Morning calls every day on social media. I give out morning calls about where the moon is and what's happening that day. So even though we kind of go into very little detail about the astrology, when I do those morning calls, I am aware of the astrology of the day. So I also, that plays a part in what I say. I like to keep them very short because who has time, right? And I wanted to just be kind of like an injection of like, hey, here's a little bit of awareness today. This is what's happening and this is what might come up. And I've been sharing those here on YouTube as well. And I'm very grateful for how those have been received. Thank you again for subscribing, following. And if you have any questions, please check out the link in my bio that links to my link tree. I just said that 3 times. And in my link tree, you can book a call, you can get the books, you can read about me, you can see my merch, all of that. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.